Good evening. I would like to call to order the Kaiser City Council in regular session. It is Monday, November 16th, 2020. Ask our city recorder to please call roll.
Councilor Herrera.
Here.
Councilor Parsons.
Here.
Councilor Smith.
Here.
Mayor Clark.
Here.
Council President Freeman.
Here.
Councilor Reed.
Here.
And Councilor Kohler.
Here.
Thank you. If you are able, please stand and please all join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So anybody watching on television tonight will note that we will be wearing our face coverings as per the changes under OSHA. So we will ask everybody to please speak clearly and distinctly so that the people listening can understand what we're saying. And it's going to be important to make sure that we take a little bit more time with that. It's my pleasure to lead off this evening with a Volunteer of the Quarter award to a very, very special person in our community who used to be a city employee, a volunteer with our Parks and the Watershed Council, and just an all-around terrific individual that we love working with. Dorothy Deal. City Manager?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Volunteer Coordinating Committee has selected Dorothy Deal as the recipient of the Volunteer of the Quarter Award for the second quarter of 2020. She was nominated by Matt Lawyer, and the nomination is attached. And Dorothy is here. So,
Yes,
Dorothy,
indeed.
do you want to?
So, Matt,
Introduce
would you come on up and tell us a little bit about why you nominated Dorothy?
I didn't recognize Matt.
I didn't.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Matt is here. Thank you.
I'm incognito.
There's some gangsters.
Madam Mayor, Council, staff, thank you. Good evening. Matt Lawyer, Kaiser resident. About 9 years ago, I had the opportunity to do one of my first volunteer projects in Kaiser. I was going to Schmeckett Community College, and we needed to do some kind of environmental project. And so I called the only person in town that I knew that could get me in touch with somebody like that. And ultimately ended up working that project with Dorothy, who at the time was the environmental manager. Dorothy has been the cornerstone of many of our volunteer projects with the Kaiser Creek Watershed Council, both as the city liaison and then after as a member of the general committee, as well as a member of the executive committee for the Kaiser Creek Watershed Council. Every project that we've done over the last 5 or 6 years, Dorothy has been out there either by herself or with her two children, Violet and Calvin, and also dragging her husband, Zach, out every once in a while when it's appropriate. We've planted dozens and dozens and dozens of trees together. We've stomped through the mud down at Ben Miller, removing invasive species and doing all kinds of nasty cleanup of trash down there. Where Ben Miller is, it's right there by Kaiser Creek Middle School, and it just collects a tremendous amount of the most obnoxious and random trash. Lots of TikTok or Tickies or Takis or whatever chips those things are. We've found various undergarments, t-shirts, sleeping bags, plenty of Gatorade bottles and other things. We've spent many hours and days working on these projects. I think one of the things that makes Dorothy and her family so unique is they actually don't even live in Kaiser. They are putting all of these hours and all of this effort into a city that they care a lot about, but actually don't even reside in. And so, unfortunately, we're losing Dorothy as a member of the Watershed Council, although I can pretty much guarantee you I'll suck her into at least a few more projects. But she's moving into another volunteer opportunity, more Marion County-wide, which is fantastic. And as soon as she sent us the letter saying that she was leaving the Watershed Council, I felt like this was the smallest way to say thank you for all of her time, all the time that her and her family have put in. Once she started dragging her kids out, I started doing the same. So Believe it or not, Zach and Violet actually get along, which is great, even though he doesn't really understand that they're kind of the reason he gets dragged out to these things at 7 and 8 o'clock in the morning. But
Me either, actually.
you know, Dorothy is just the pinnacle of professionalism and expertise, and she really kind of set the stage for a lot of the ways I do my volunteer work, and I'm very appreciative of everything that she's brought to the table in a city she doesn't even live in. So it's really a great pleasure to be honoring a good friend today.
All right, thank you very much.
So you can't tell that I'm smiling, but I am like beaming. I hope you can kind of sense that. And Violet's a little bit nervous, but she's really excited to be here too. And you all know Matt Lawyer, so you probably know how embarrassed I was to find out that Matt Lawyer was nominating me for a volunteer award. That's absurd. And at first, I honestly, I was like, no, Matt, that's insane. Come on, like you're the gold standard of volunteerism in Kaiser. But when he explained to me that I and my little kiddos, who her brother isn't here tonight, he's at home, but that inspired him to bring his kids out. And it's kind of like a cycle of he inspired me and I inspired him, and we're all inspiring a generation of volunteers. And so I stopped thinking it's crazy. I accept it, and I am incredibly honored and humbled to be recognized by all of you here tonight, but especially that I was nominated by Matt Lawyer is incredible. So thank you to Matt, and thank you to all of you.
Thank you.
So I'm going to make the presentation here. I'll wash my face and answer before I come.
No paper tonight? No paper tonight? Where is Gavin?
He watches. I mean, one.
Nice.
You know, it's volunteers like Matt and like Dorothy that put the pride, spirit, and volunteerism off of a sign and into action, and we are deeply thankful for the work Dorothy has put in and her family and the inspiration, and we know that the work that she and her family have done will continue to bless families in our community both now and going forward. And you're going to just keep doing awesome things. Thank you so much. Dorothy Deal. Before we go to committee reports, I would like to acknowledge and to offer courtesy to our state representative, Bill Post, and offer him time to address the council and the folks here in Kaiser. Come on down.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, councilors, and Kaiser City staff, Bill Post of Kaiser. I wanted to address a couple of things. The first is the ongoing issue of the statement of values. I believe the statement of values for our great city should be very clear, very concise, and very simple. All people shall be treated with dignity and respect, period. All means all. If we must resort to listing specific people or groups, then all loses its meaning and strength. I believe Kaiser is the most welcoming to all city in Oregon, and I'm proud to be a Kaiser resident. But this leads me to the topic that's, to me, the most important tonight, that we as citizens of Kaiser and the state of Oregon should be discussing, and that's the governor's latest orders. No government leader in the history of the United States has ever said, "We'll come to your house, your private home, cite and or arrest you for having a family dinner." Just think about that for a moment. There are people present here tonight who represent families that might have 6 or 8 or even 10 or 12 or more. And to ask them to not get together for the sake of getting together is something I can't even believe that I'm hearing and I'm reading. It's not only unconstitutional and unheard of, but in my estimation, it represents inequality and inequity at its most heinous. And isn't that what the statement of values has been discussed here for so long in these council chambers all about? Add to that the plight of the workers, that hundreds, if not thousands of hardworking, lower-wage people, perhaps as early as this Wednesday, will be losing their jobs. It's heartless and callous, and I can't hardly believe it. What also stuns me as a representative in the Oregon legislature, which is, by the way, 1/3 of the 3 branches of government, the executive branch has weaponized a state agency, Oregon OSHA, without the input or, frankly, anything from the legislative branch. OSHA now has police powers that even supersede the real police. Our governor has turned Oregonians against Oregonians. I do not want to put the city of Kaiser into an awkward or uncomfortable situation, but I am asking the council to consider making Kaiser a truly welcoming place for workers and employers, for businesses, for families. I am asking that we as a community just ignore this recent order, that Kaiser be a shining example of hope for Oregon. I'm asking my fellow Kaiserites to be smart. Wear your mask when appropriate. Keep your distance when you can. Cover your mouth when coughing. Wash your hands a lot. Do the things that we all know are safe and effective at stopping the spread of this virus. Just don't let common sense go out the window by not having your family and friends over for dinner. Celebrate as your family sees fit and as the founders of this nation meant, in freedom. Thank you for this time.
Thank you, Representative. I appreciate your thoughts, and it's been a very, very difficult last several days. I have been in contact with the governor's office regarding the messaging. I am extremely concerned about families in our community, especially families that are larger, that the children are hearing, oh my gosh, there's more than 6 people in our family. Are the police coming to our door? I have actually gotten reports of that. Will the police come to the door for a family that is larger than 6, City Manager?
As per my direction, no.
Thank you. Can we make that very clear? If your family has more than 6 people in it, no, you are a family. You are a household. And we want to make it very, very clear, especially to families that may feel uncomfortable already, maybe with law enforcement and so forth. No, we will not be doing anything but welcoming and caring for one another. I am deeply disturbed that there are children now who are fearful because they have 7 or 8 people in their families. And that the potential for harassment is now out there. And no, every family, every household. This is your city. Your law enforcement are here for your safety. Thank you. I really appreciate your time, and thank you for working for us, for all the people of Kaiser Legislature.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Let's go now to committee reports. I have one, and that's for Parks, and Mr. Clint Holland is here for Parks.
Thank you. I'm here to make the Parks Board a little different here with no table. I'm here to make the Parks Board report that we had a meeting on Tuesday, November 10th. We have a new member, Dustin Karstetler. He filled a vacant spot and he's now on the board. And Debbie says there'll be a couple more replacements at the first of the year, and she says they're well qualified. She was really impressed with it, so looks good. We had a lot of talk with the Eagle Scouts. We talked about the greenhouse that's over by the skate park. They showed pictures of the progress that they're doing, and really, I was kind of impressed myself with all the work that's being done. One other project is the kiosk out here. We appropriated $273 for that, and that project was 2 or 3 times what they thought it was going to be. So we voted to give them $923, and because it's so much more work. And while I'm on this, besides the scouts, it takes a lot to do these projects. And the business people in this community step forward all the time. And if it wasn't for them backing the scouts, giving them equipment, giving them paint, and just for instance on the kiosk, Herx did a lot of work there, and Rada Paint furnished a lot of stuff for them. So without the business people in this community, we would have a tough time on doing a lot of these projects. So I'm really thankful not only the scouts, but the people behind them. Carol from West Neighborhood Association was at our board, and she was there to thank the board for all the work that was done at the Wallace House. And I don't know how many people have been by to see the Wallace House lately, but should do that. Another Eagle Scout project that's coming up is at Clear Lake in Palmacia, and they're putting benches and picnic tables, and Robert's already on that, and he's getting the picnic tables and stuff, and the scouts are going to be the ones that put it together and paint them. Robert made a report on the Parks Master Plan that is underway. MIG is doing it apparently, and these are the people that did it in 2008, same ones I think. They will be making an appearance at our Parks board in December, and the board will then start getting involved real heavy with it. Claggett Creek Park play structure is under construction, and according to Robert, it should be done by the end of this year. And the parking lot on the Shamala side has been paved, and it's I think it can do twice as much parking there as they did before. And they're in the process of painting, and Robert's ordered the bumpers for the parking there, and that should be done also here real quick. If anybody has any questions?
Councilor Kohler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Holland, did young Mr. Elder talk about how many hours he had into refurbishing the gazebo?
I don't remember the hours, but I know it was 2 or 3 times what they thought after they started getting into it.
Yeah, I think it was almost 500 hours with all the people.
I can believe it. You get dry rot and all the stuff and the sanding stuff you got to do.
It was very impressive.
I just had them build a deal out at the amphitheater, the Scouts. What a great job they did for storage behind the amphitheater. And then this couple weeks ago, they painted the trailer that was out there, the concession trailer. What a fabulous job these guys do. They just don't paint it. They make sure the job is done right. They believe a job worth doing is a job worth doing right.
All right, that was Millis and McBride.
Yeah.
But I do have just another comment. I just want to express my appreciation of the Parks Board that they made it possible that these young people in our communities that would like to do projects like that we could fund them now. Because a couple of years ago, they would come and they were told by Robert, there's no money, and if you want to do something like the gazebo, you're going to have to come up with all the money yourself. And they were going to Salem to do their projects. And so to me, that's very, very important that we do that. And I just want to say thank you very much for being a part of making that possible.
Yeah.
All right,
Okay.
any other questions on parks? So place to go outside, get fresh air. Yes, Councilor Herrera.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Clint, the parking situation is a big deal because it's actually like almost 4 times more parking. And that's parking that was usually on Chimawa or, 13th? So that eliminates a lot of that residential parking for the park use. So that's a big deal. And
Good.
Appreciate it.
All right, thank you very
Madam Mayor.
much. Any other committee reports at this time? I don't have anybody else who had turned in for a committee. Okay. That takes us to public testimony. This time is provided for citizens to address the council on any matters other than those on the agenda scheduled for public hearing. We have one public hearing scheduled this evening for the severely rent-burdened status of City of Kaiser. So if you have come to speak to that, make sure you have signed up with the city recorder in the back to speak to that in that public hearing. To remind everybody of the ground rules for public testimony, it is your turn to talk. It is our turn to listen. You have 5 minutes. I ask the council to ask clarifying questions, and we will refer to staff, anything that we need to follow up on. We remind all of our speakers to address your comments to the chair. Also, we want to remind you that we are talking about matters that have to do with the people and people of Kaiser, the citizens of Kaiser. And if you have issues or questions regarding our city council, people as individuals, our staff, or community members, I ask that you remember that this is about city business. And make sure your comments are focused on that. With that, the first one I'd like to call up is Kyle Quiring. The RFP date pushed back to July to take over in November.
Thank you, Mayor.
So if you could just state your name and your city of residence for the record.
Yes, my name is Kyle Quiring, city of residence. I'm a citizen of Kaiser, Oregon. Have been for 13 and a half years. I am currently the president of Kaiser Little League Baseball.
Okay.
And as such, we have been hearing some rumors about when the RFP is going to be due. And we just want to get some clarity so that way we can make sure that we get our ducks in a row when it comes time to do things. We'd heard that the city was thinking about a due date of end of April with the new successful group taking over in September. We do have some concerns about a new group taking over in September, in that that's in the middle of our fall season. So it'd be very hard for us if we didn't keep the fields to get all of our stuff out during that time when we're still in the middle of a season. So we were just wanted to have conversation about what the city's thoughts are and if it might be possible to push it back to the end of October for the new group to take over.
Thank you. That's a great question. City manager, is that something you can address, or would you like to have us get back to him? Mr. Johnson?
We don't have a specific date in mind for that yet. We need to talk about that internally. So I don't have an answer for that. We are hopeful that the RFP will be ready soon to be distributed, but we haven't talked about the timeline in the RFP, including the date of new takeover.
So there's still some flexibility.
Okay.
There's still some flexibility in that. Okay. It's 2020.
Right? I'm well aware of that.
Yeah. But no, thank you for coming. And also, thank you for the ongoing work out at the fields.
Yes, I can tell you as a group, we're trying to work together with the 3 leagues that are in the city on a trial basis this year. And so that's kind of why we're asking for a little more lenience, so that way we can kind of see if we can all coexist together and make this work. And then that way going forward, we can all go and hopefully put in a response for the RFP. So that was the main reason for us coming here tonight. It's just baby steps. We're just starting the process, but we might need a little bit of time.
Understood. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming, and thank you for your work for our kids.
Thank you.
Okay. Did anybody have any questions for Mr. Quiring? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to. Okay, we're good. All right, thank you. All right, next up I have Pat Fisher, Minority Voters.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and councilors and staff. What I'd like to do tonight is really give Mayor and council my vote of support in light of recent attacks on some segments of our Kaiser electorate. As As you know, in the recent city council races, all three of the races were contested. All three had challengers. Our state representative, who is here tonight, has referred to those challengers and their supporters and even one of our sitting councilors as a gang, and characterized it as part of a hostile takeover. So I did not really appreciate being tagged as part of a gang. I was very disappointed to hear really a difference of political views being characterized as a hostile takeover rather than just the normal, healthy part of the democratic process. So I don't really think that we're talking about a small, extreme minority. We're talking about almost half the people of Kaiser. If you take a look at those election results, there were over 4,000 people that did not vote for either of the two main candidates. The vote of I don't know or I don't care actually got more than 20%. So although, and none of the three candidates got 50%. Now, the incumbent Laura Reed got the closest with 49%. And so Councilor Reed, that brings you almost to half the people that voted, but we don't really know, we can't really say on all the rest of the people. They either did not vote or voted for somebody else. So I just wanted to reiterate again that I know you are looking at several difficult issues currently and in the near future. And so I really appreciate that you've been all, as a council, have been seeking out and considering input from the full cross-section of Kaiser. I do appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments or questions clarifying? There have been some things said on Facebook and several places that have been uncalled for, and I would concur with that. I've got our two councilors-elect got a particularly interesting label put on them, which I found also repulsive, and I'm really hoping that we can continue to be without labels, but be all Kaiserites as we look at the issues that we're facing. So I do appreciate that, and I also appreciate this council working hard to make sure that we are listening to the people of Kaiser. Thank you very much. Councilor Herrera.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to say that, during this process of running election, the candidates, you work hard, everybody has their opinion. Nobody's trying to take over nothing. Everybody has, that's part of the process. And once it's over, they go up to the winner and you say, congratulations, kind of like I did, I think. And I want folks to know that just because somebody has another point of view, doesn't mean that they're trying to take over. It doesn't mean that they're trying to hostile take over, the way it was put. It doesn't mean that people involved in their helping them are gang leaders. It doesn't mean that at all. And by the way, I don't appreciate that, but that's just what it is. I get, I don't mind folks attacking me, but lately it's been my family, and I just want folks to know that I was part of this whole mess too, and I feel really bad about some of the things I said. I've told you all that, but I want us to move on. But remember that this is our process. I mean, not everybody's going to think alike. Almost half of Kaiser did not think like that. I mean, look at the almost 6,000 votes we got on the 24,453, and that's almost 6,000 people that either didn't want to, or like Elizabeth said, voted no, which usually they skip something they don't know about. But I just want folks to move on, and we have new counselors now, and people are going to have opinions. So it doesn't mean they're enemy, or they're mean, or they're bad, or they should be abused on Facebook. I just want, like, all of us to kind of, like I've been doing lately, hopefully, is trying to take a deep breath and let's move forward. I want to put some of this hostility behind us, and I was part of it. I admit it, so I want to move on. I'm going to do my part to move on. I don't appreciate and I don't agree with a lot of the comments that have been said here, but that's okay. That's part of the process. So I don't want to be vilified. And then one more thing is, I don't like being called a gang. I've never been in a gang. So that's just my 2 cents, but let's move on. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
I'm hoping that as we continue to have dialogue with one another, that we will be able to do that. I know that some people put things on Facebook that they have taken down, which I'm glad that they thought better of it. And we're going to have to afford each other a whole lot of grace. There's a lot of tension right now, but I think it's important that we continue to afford each other that opportunity. But also remember that the people who voted, all the people in Kaiser, voted or not, are the people we work for, all 40,000. A fair number of whom are under the age of 18, so they couldn't vote. But we work for them too. So we shall continue to work as a council. I understand there's some things that have been said and done. Let's decide how we're going to move forward. Thank you. Anything else? All right. Next up, I have Rich Rodriguez on sustainability. And if you would just give your name, city of residence for the record, you have 5 minutes.
Good evening, Council. Thank you, Mayor. I'm here to talk about sustainability in Kaiser.
Can we have your name and city of residence?
I'm sorry, Rich Rodriguez, Kaiser, Oregon. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
First of all, talk about Kaiser. We have to take responsibility for the CO2 that we emit, primarily in this discussion tonight from our vehicle fleet. I'd like to outline a couple steps. First, we'd like to establish the fossil fuel baseline, how much we're burning and dumping into our atmosphere. Second, we'd like to evaluate the trends from the fossil fuels that we're burning and dumping into the atmosphere. I'd like to open some discussion on the future emissions reduction strategies and options, and finally provide some recommendations. First, I'd like to thank the city for providing the gallons of diesel and gasoline burnt by the city. And, I'm sorry, I'm on the motivation slide. My apology. And just as a little motivation, and I'll turn to Councilor Reed here, who's an instructor. 1 gallon of gasoline weighs about 6.3 pounds, yet produces 20 pounds of CO2. And I'm not going to get into all the details here. There's the science of it. But it's something to bear in mind. When you pick up that 6.3 pounds per gallon, you're dumping 20 pounds of CO2 into the atmosphere. Next slide, thank you. This is actually the data that was provided by the city. Again, thank you. This was made under a, data request, I guess it was. A couple of things to note here. Fossil fuel usage increased by 2% in 2018. Remember, these are also equivalent to dollars. In 2019, fossil fuel usage increased by 12%. Again, you could substitute dollars as well. This chart shows fossil fuel usage simply in graphical form, in chart form, both diesel and gasoline. Next slide does a little conversion factor, going back to that 20 pounds for every 6 point whatever it is pounds on gasoline. It's about 19 something on diesel. This is actually a chart of the CO2 emissions from the city's vehicle fleet, 2017, 18, and 19. The 3-year total is a little over 2 million pounds of CO2 that the city has dumped into our air. Some discussion. Where does this pollution come from? Notably, the police fleet, which is the biggest contributor. I would start the discussion by suggesting that the city hire a consultant for establishing some targets to getting to zero tailpipe emissions. I put a link here from Fourth Mobility, organization in Portland, nationally respected, internationally respected, that could assist the city in developing such a plan. Some communities have already made these changes, and what they've done, and I'll go back to dollars, they've done the calculations on the life cycle cost, and that includes vehicle resale value, as anybody who does life cycle cost has to account for. And they've already made some of these changes. I'd like to make some recommendations to the council here tonight. Number one, annually report the gallons of fossil fuel and CO2 emissions in the city's comprehensive annual financial review in the statistical section. Number two, establish a plan to reduce CO2 emissions to zero. Thank you. I'd like to be open to some questions.
Thank you very much. So we have the slide deck is available and will be posted on our website. Any clarifying questions? Councilor Herrera?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just have a comment. I don't know enough about, I admit that I don't know enough about the emissions and how that produces 20 pounds. I know it has something to do with the oxygen, right?
Yes.
But that's almost like a work session maybe we can learn, because I'm not really up on CO2 emissions, although I think I know, but I really don't. I want to know more about how, maybe if it is possible, but I'm just curious if anybody else has the same type of interest that I do in learning, or at least listening to how that works.
There's a great deal of information out there, and we can get some of those links to you that have those calculations.
Okay, but thanks for your time, Mr. Rodriguez.
All right. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
That's all I have signed up for public testimony tonight. I would like to let people know there's going to be a change on how we're going to be handling written testimony from here on out. I've checked with other cities how they do this to ensure that the written testimony is entered fully into the record. And so we will be proceeding as follows. At the end of public testimony right now, any written testimony that's been received will be acknowledged for the record. We will acknowledge that by the name of the writer, the city of residence, and the topic line. All of the written testimony will then be posted in its entirety on the website with additional materials, as Tracy Davis does after each meeting. The writer's email address will be redacted because we don't publish your home addresses when you come in and testify here, so we certainly won't publish your email addresses. If a counselor wishes to read a particular item into the record, they may do so either during the agenda item, if it has an agenda item for the evening and is related to it, or during their own council liaison reports. So with that, I have several items that will be entered into the record. Lauren Murphy, resident of Kaiser, her email is called Thoughts on Value Statement. Butch Dunn, resident of Kaiser, Kaiser Value Statement Response. Betty Hart, resident of Kaiser, Council Work Session. John Morgan, resident of Kaiser, Kaiser Statement of Values, Justice, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. Bill Post, resident of Kaiser, Statement of Values. William Gill, resident of Kaiser, November 9th, 2020 work session. Linda Warner, resident of Kaiser, recent work session. And Michelle Roland Schwartz, resident of Kaiser, SATF letter regarding inclusivity resolution. All of those emails, and I think one of them has an attachment, will be posted in their entirety for everyone to be able to read and download. Okay? All right. That concludes then public testimony. This time is provided, we are going to go into now public hearings. And we're going to hear about these item 7A, severely rent burden status of the city of Kaiser. City Manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Witham.
Thank you, City Manager. Madam Mayor, City Council. So tonight for our public hearing, we are having a hearing on the status of the city of Kaiser as a severely rent burdened community. We've done this, I think this is the third year in a row that we've done it. First time I've been here to do it, but in 2018, House Bill 4006 that was passed required cities of our size to hold a public hearing to discuss issues surrounding rent burden. Rent burden is determined based on data from the American Community Survey. And this year's survey work, which came out and was posted, showed that the city was sitting at 25.9% for a rent burden rate, which anything over 25% requires us to have a public hearing. We do a report that we send in to DLCD and the Oregon Housing
Community Services.
Communities, yes, thank you.
Acronym.
Counselor, yeah, I know the acronym, sorry. And specifically, the meeting, we invite, in your packet, there's a list of folks that we invite to participate and ask for comments. I did receive one phone call from a gentleman who wanted to know if our meeting was going to be televised tonight, but we did not receive any written testimony on the rent burden issues, but specifically, staff report kind of outlines it, but it's intended to give an opportunity to talk about the causes and consequences of severe rent burden within our city, barriers to reducing rent burdens, and then also possible solutions to reduce rent burden for households within the city. One thing that did change this year, and in previous years we've had a survey that we've also filled out that's been a part of the packet. However, with House Bill 2003, there are some changes that are coming forward in how cities approach housing needs analyses. And then specifically, there's going to be a requirement in the future, although it's not quite fully determined exactly how it's going to work. There's 2 cities in the state of Oregon right now that are doing kind of the pilot programs of it, but that is providing a housing production strategy and how a city is approaching meeting the needs of basically housing through all income levels. So that's something that will be future work that we partake in. But because of that, the survey piece has been lifted from the requirements by House Bill 2003 and then pushed out into when you do the housing production strategy. So with that being said, we're asking you to open the public hearing, to take testimony. I'd be happy to answer any questions that I can. And then at the end of it, we report back to the LCD and send in our report, and that's about it. So with that, I'd be happy to ask or answer any questions.
All right, thank you very much. I lost my rhythm. Public hearing is open and the staff report is included by reference. Any questions on the staff report regarding the status of Kaiser as a severely rent burdened city, a status that should surprise absolutely nobody in this room? So, Councilor Reed.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was just wondering, these numbers don't seem to be terribly up from last year. I know we were just kind of above 25% last year. And especially given the challenges of 2020, I'm kind of surprised that it's not higher than it is in terms of people who've lost jobs and have been in dire straits this way. So can you just address that a little bit?
I can tell you what I think. However, we don't actually create the numbers. We're given the numbers, but I think it has a lot to do with where the data is pulled from the American Community Survey data, because there is a limited pool of data that's available. So I think the metric changes some, but it's not, I don't believe that the data is collected where it is truly a census-driven data point that goes through everything every single year. So I think that's why it may be very well that next year those numbers will kick up more just based on when these numbers actually were calculated and came out. Historically, in the past, we've gotten the numbers earlier than we got them this year, but I think somebody said it earlier, it is 2020. So I think that may be part of the reason. But that, again, that's Shane's inference based on looking at the past, because I was surprised also. I think it went up 0.2%. I think last year we were 25.7%. I think the year before we were a little higher, like 27% or something like that. So it did go up a tiny bit this year, but I would assume that next year it may be even higher as those metrics kick in, just because of when the data was pulled.
bottom line is a problem, and we need to figure out how to deal with that. So thank you.
So I would add that we did get a report on, what day was that? Thursday, I think it was, part of the Willamette Valley Homeless Alliance. We were talking about the housing supply. We are the alliance of which Kaiser is a member, is part of the putting together a collaborative application for more shelter beds, more facilities for people who are unsheltered. And one of the stunning numbers is the percentage of our homeless who are unsheltered, which is over half, which is not common. Other communities tend to have more than half of their homeless are in some sort of sheltering, which is partly due to our extremely low vacancy rate, which I understand has not really changed. I'm looking for a couple of our experts in the room who could talk to us about the vacancy rate in Kaiser. I don't believe that has budged much this year, and that housing stock is turning over rather quickly. So, part of the issue is if it's market driven and we're not seeing vacancies, to Councilor Reed's point, we're not getting that wiggle room we need to see possibly housing costs come down at all, if any. Even in 2020, as much of a gyration it's been for a lot of families, and how difficult it has been for some. So I'm looking at, Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Following up on Councilor Reed's question and Mr. Witham's answer, if you look at this table, which is at the back of the packet of that items, pages 21 and 22, the table's entitled Severe Rent Burden in Oregon 2020, but at the last page of the table, which is on page 22, it says source 2014 to 2018 American Community Survey 5-year estimates and PSU certified population as of July 1, 2019. So you're not dealing, from that I would presume there's not any true 2020 data in that table.
Council President Freeman.
Thank you, Shannon. You are correct. And so this comes out of the agency I work at. It's not my section, so I'm just going to say that. And our data and research team this actually lives with them. And the ACS data, the American Community Survey data, is part of the census data. And each year there's a percentage that they use that it increases, but it doesn't relate to true statistics. And as we know, the census is only every 10 years, and then it takes a while to even get the census data. So you are never using accurate data to answer Councilor Reed, but it is the best, and it's what we use as an agency usually across the board. So, yeah.
All right, any other questions from council on the report itself? Councilor Kohler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As I look at this and read through it, what really are our options to change any of this?
Boy, there's the big question.
And I guess the reason that I ask that is that I look through there's an awful lot of stuff we have absolutely no control over. We don't control our urban growth boundary. We don't control a lot of stuff that are possible that maybe we could make a little change in. What can we do?
City Manager.
Well, just sort of thinking theoretically, the primary ways that a government would change that would be either to invest in housing with public dollars, okay, so as to bring down the cost overall of housing in a community. Working with a housing authority in the area to develop rent vouchers and those kinds of things. Typically in other parts of the country where you don't have urban growth boundaries, you would encourage development of different kinds of housing stock. That's something we don't really have the ability to do. And then of course the other alternative is to try to use your economic development powers to bring in higher wage jobs to bring up the average income across the community, and that helps with that statistic as well. Very few of those things do we here actually have the ability to influence. So it is a tough question.
And for the record, we do partner with the Salem Housing Authority, do we not? So rather than try to go it alone, I think it's important to note that we do partner with the City of Salem through the Salem Housing Authority, which is also part of the Willamette Valley Homeless Alliance, and they are also working in partnership with other housing agencies to ensure that as much leverage as possible is made toward providing affordable, low barrier, and other types of housing for people in our two-city area, knowing that people's needs don't stop at city boundaries. So I appreciate that we are working in collaboration with the Salem Housing Authority. Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The other thing, and Shane can comment better on this in terms of detail, but through the River Cherry Overlay District,
Yes.
RCOD, standards were changed, allowed for more dense housing. That brings down the cost, and we're looking at that on a broader stage too as we move forward. So that's the type of thing that also can have effect on housing pricing.
And I would add, a few of just my thoughts, and from a land use planning perspective, Councilor Johnson's absolutely correct. The RCOD, in part, we did adjust some of our standards, which from a high level was intended to remove some barriers to different housing types. We've all talked some about the fact that we do have a few legislative actions that have happened in, this past year, specifically House Bill 2001 and House Bill 2003, which I referenced in this report, which at a state level, things are shifting to look at those concerns with housing affordability as a bigger picture of land use, generally speaking. And I think obviously, when you look at the things to discuss in the public hearing, causes and consequences of severe rent burden, barriers to reducing it, and possible solutions, I would agree. There is not a silver bullet. There is not a magic wand to fix the issue. But I do think that the city is currently trying to take an approach to incrementally improve what we are allowing to be provided as housing stock. Because seventh grade economics would say supply and demand, and there's very little opportunity for homes to stay on the market in Kaiser for buying or for renting. There's just a very low vacancy rate in Kaiser. It's a desirable community to live in. And so the theory there is if you can provide some more supply, then maybe that helps with that, at least to an extent. And if you allow other housing types to come in, which House Bill 2001, which is, allowing duplexes, triplexes, those middle housing products, the intent there with the legislation is to look at a big glass of affordability that takes that into consideration with the land use planning and with how we allow our property in Kaiser to be developed. So, I think we have made some steps in the past few years. Now, the reality is that the creation of that River Cherry Overlay District, we've only seen a few projects that have come in so far since December when that was adopted. So we haven't seen a ton of products actually get built yet. We've had a few that have gotten approved. We have one apartment mixed-use development there down by Sonic that's under construction, getting close to completion, that we're utilizing some of those provisions in the RCOD. But I think that's kind of a first step. So, I think that is something that as a council, there does probably need to be consideration as we move forward about how progressively we move forward in applying standards like the River Cherry Overlay District citywide and how far reaching it is. And I think ultimately House Bill 2001 will require us to do some of those things, which will put hopefully a better supply in our community for affordability.
And we've already made changes to our infill, how we do that. We had already done accessory dwelling unit. We've already done some of the work around duplexes. Are we where we should be on triplexes and quads?
So we are The House Bill 2001 will go into effect in June of 2022. They're in the rulemaking process right now, so it's not finalized. I believe the next hearing, which we submitted written comments, city attorney helped draft, well, I gave him some stuff and then he made it sound good. We did submit some written comments to their first hearing on that. I believe the next hearing is December 9th. I just looked at it. It's in December. It got carried forward to another hearing. And I don't know if after that hearing there will be actual adopted rules that move forward. I just saw an email today that the rulemaking for House Bill 2003 just was on the 12th, I believe. And so that has moved forward into the next step. So they're moving through that rulemaking process at the state level. And we have had some discussions, I think, maybe our September Planning Commission meeting. We had some discussions about what we talked about as additional efficiency measures in Kaiser is kind of how we were terming it. And the consensus from Planning Commission was, let's wait and kind of wait for the rules and not go and take a stab at something that either falls short of what the rules are or overreaches and creates unintended consequences for the city. So, I mean, I hate to put it in the, we're kind of in a hurry up and wait kind of point, but we sort of are, at least for a little while. But I do expect that we will be having several additional meetings in the near-ish future to discuss some of those things when it comes specifically to the triplexes, the quads, the cottage clusters, the middle housing term that's used in House Bill 2001. So yeah.
So along with some of those options, we have given property owners more flexibility on how they want to develop or redevelop property to maximize housing units, rather than some of our old standards, which were very prescriptive, saying this is the only thing you can do.
Yes, and we have, and I think always the question is have we gone far enough? And it's hard when you don't have a little bit of data to support it and a kind of a proven track record of development happening to kind of know how the community feels about that. The other thing I would add, just I had a good conversation actually today. Councilor Freeman put me in touch with an affordable housing developer who she used to work with, and so I had tried to connect with him a while back, and we played phone tag. But I actually had a good conversation with him today, and just from an affordable housing developer's perspective, I kind of wanted to get his take on, what are the things they look for. And I think, Mr. Epley alluded to it earlier, affordable housing, it's hard to build, and it does require investment from the public realm. And so, I think there are things that the city can look at, and some of those based on from an affordable housing developer's perspective, where they tend to look to partner with cities and communities as areas where they either can get land gifted to them for affordable housing projects, or where there's incentivized, no SDCs or reduction in SDC charges, things like that make the projects kind of pencil from a pro forma perspective for them to build it. And that's tough because we as a city are not a large landholder, and we do not have a large we have no urban renewal district. We don't have a lot of tools available to us, and I keep thinking that the Parks Department and all the work they do, they're going to find a way to grow money trees for us, but they haven't yet. So, but I do think the reality is I think that affordable housing it's a big issue, and without funding, it is near impossible to move the needle a lot on that. So
my concern, even with the middle housing category, is that without some sort of governmental influence, even if there's greater supply, if the demand continues to be as high as it has been, even that middle housing category is going to be beyond the affordable realm for most people very quickly. So simply because you build different kinds of housing or a different type of supply does not mean that it's going to remain affordable housing or even start there. So I think, and Shane is absolutely right. I think that the city of Kaiser, for a community our size, we've been very proactive in trying to do some unique and interesting things to give people a lot of flexibility to build different kinds of products. We pride ourselves on being less bureaucratic and having fewer hurdles and lower SDCs than most communities around us, and we still suffer. And it's going to continue to be a very difficult topic, and it drives a lot of other issues. It drives homelessness. It drives anxiety in a community if you're living on the margin of how much your rent costs versus how much you bring in, et cetera, et cetera. And there's lots of social implications as well. So,
well, just to make sure folks understand what we're talking about, Shane, I can put this on you. I can do it just as well. There's a difference between low-income housing and affordable housing. These are two different beasts. Would you help folks who are watching understand the difference?
Sure, yeah. I mean, so generally when you're talking about subsidized housing, from an affordability perspective, it would be something that is going to be government-backed housing. It's going to be subsidized in rents, and it will be a set amount that people pay for those units. Now, and we're going through the process of updating our housing needs analysis from a technical perspective, but in the housing and needs analysis that we didn't yet adopt, that is one of the things that we've talked about, is that there are also kind of naturally occurring lower income housing. Things like manufactured home parks tend to fall into that category. So there are some naturally occurring lower income housing, but when you get into the true kind of housing affordability that's subsidized housing, that's kind of a whole nother area where those units that would get built would actually be required to be held at the lower rent rate so that folks would be able to afford those and that it would stay that way. So we have a few projects like that in Kaiser that have been built over the years through our partnerships with other entities, where we have true affordable housing projects, and we have some places that have affordable units, which I don't know those off the top of my head right now, but they are kind of identified in our housing needs analysis. So does that kind of get at what, does that help?
A little bit. I think for the layperson, low-income housing is tagged to the income relative to the poverty rate, the federal poverty level. Affordable, if I remember correctly, is more matched up with the income in an area, in a metropolitan statistical area or an economic area, and if there's a match between the wages, the wages that are earned by people in that community and the cost for housing. In our case, we have a mismatch. We have housing that costs this much per month, but income from jobs that tend to be down here, and we don't have a match between the income, the jobs, and how much the housing costs. So when you get that mismatch, what happens is you end up pushing people farther out, trying to find that match. I earn this much, therefore this is how much housing I can buy in this city, or this city, and they'll go until they find one that they can afford without putting themselves at risk, if they have the ability to then travel to their place of employment. What we've seen in this region is large neighborhoods being built in Turner, Staten, Sublimity, Independence, Monmouth, and Dallas, but people who are working in Salem. Because that was where they could make the match between what they were earning and the housing they could afford to be able to purchase. So we have a mismatch, as I understand it here, and that's part of the problem that we're facing with the supply of housing that we have. But then when you push people farther out, what happens to our transportation miles traveled? You have to travel farther for that work, except right now for those of us who are working from home. But not everybody can. Not all jobs work that way. But I think that's something to take into consideration, looking at just beyond the city of Kaiser. We're looking at the Salem and the surrounding communities where single-family homes where people can purchase that those homes can actually afford to do so. So even if they would like to live here, because Kaiser's awesome. But I'm not prejudiced. No, not at all. What I'd like to do, there are not a lot of folks here because of restrictions. However, I don't have anybody signed up for the public hearing. But is there anyone in the audience who would like to speak to this issue of our severely rent burden status? Mr. Rodriguez, come on up, and you have 5 minutes.
Rich Rodriguez, Keizer, Oregon. I'm not an expert in this area, but I believe the city can also issue conduit bonds for this type of housing, where the city is not responsible for the obligation, but provides the tax exempt status to the investor that's building the project. And that's kind of an arrow in the quiver that could also be used.
Would you say what kind of bond that is again? I didn't understand the word.
Conduit bonds.
We do them.
Conduit, okay,
Right,
conduit.
tax exempt municipal conduit bonds. The city's not the obligated person. Your name is on the cover of the bond document, but it's the investor that's the obligated person.
All right, thank you very much.
Just another arrow in the quiver.
Another tool in the toolbox. Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address the council under this public hearing? And I'm sorry again that more people couldn't be here to comment.
I have a comment. We're done.
Okay, I'll go then to Council President Freeman, and then Councilor Kohler has a
Thank you, Madam
comment.
Mayor. So I would just like to say, so for those of you, I'm in home ownership, not affordable rental housing. And there's just a couple things. The city, from the partners that I work with, we're way ahead of a lot of cities in this state. So kudos to the city and the staff for that. What I hear a lot from nonprofit homeownership developers is exactly what Shane said. They need to have donated land. And the other large ticket item is the waiver of SDCs, the system development charges, to keep it affordable, which for some cities that doesn't work, right? It just doesn't work for us to do that. So those are the things I hear. And also if you want to say all the resources, there's not a lot of resources for homeownership development from a state perspective. Most of those funds are for the affordable rental housing because you can build more housing for all of those dollars. And there's many, many different funding options, which you talked to Ty. Yeah. So I'm glad you guys finally connected. Funny story, I didn't even know he left our agency until I got that email on my city email and went, wait a minute, he used to work for us. So, but
It's a small state.
It is a small state. So, we're doing a lot of really good things, and we are in a unique, area because we don't have a lot of land and we partnership. And yes, we probably could issue conduit bonds. There's many things that go with that. And staffing, number one, and if you can have bond limits, there's a whole lot of state requirements that go with that. But I think it's a conversation that the state is having just in reference to development money for homeownership. And if you were to get Habitat for Humanity partners in this room, they would tell you that's, they again need donated land and many other options. But more discussion on a state level, definitely for homeownership development dollars and continuous affordable rental dollars. So I think it's just, where it can pencil out for the investor. So thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, appreciate that. Councilor Kohler?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Wickham, the mixed-use housing and business properties that are under construction now, do you anticipate them being underneath the rent burdened dollar level for somebody to can somebody actually afford to live in them?
Yeah, I don't know I know that is a market-driven, market rate product.
You don't really expect them to be very affordable?
No, I would not. I would expect them to be another housing type, which may be affordable for some folks. Again, on the scale of affordability, you have a large scale. Obviously, what may be affordable for me may not be affordable for another. What may be affordable for you may not be affordable for me. So, there is there is a scale there. But yeah, it is not being built, and if I intimated that, I did not intend to. That was just an example of a project that's within our River Cherry Overlay District that's actually come online as an actual project.
I applaud the people that are doing that. That's great, but I just don't know that that's going to be very affordable.
But it will increase our housing capacity, and that's another area that we're looking at, because when you at least increase your capacity, your stock, that starts to relieve some of the pressure points a little bit, but we haven't seen a lot of movement there, and there's a lot of properties that are redevelopable, but it's purely up to the property owner to wish to do so. I've got a property behind my house that has redeveloped, and was one house and is now two houses and an ADU, accessory dwelling unit. And so that's an example of what can happen with infill in some of our older neighborhoods. But not all property owners are motivated to subdivide. They like their space at this time, but when the property sells, that might change. And I do appreciate that our planning department is very easy to work with for a person who wants to come in and see about making those changes, and not be a barrier to that, those inquiries. So I do appreciate that. Councilor Smith, did you have more weigh in?
Oh, thank you, Madam Mayor. Just one other thought. Just to be fair, I'm in the mortgage industry, so I see a lot of reports and things as to what's going on currently. We had, at this time last year, the average sales price in Kaiser was about $300,000, which was up about $50,000 within 2 years. It is now we thought in 2020 the housing market would actually, due to COVID, we thought we were going to have some problems with that. Obviously, everyone saw the rates drop with the feds and such, but a weird thing actually occurred, and our purchase business in Marion County and in the state of Oregon is like record breaking. Obviously driven partially by those low interest rates. But there's a couple other things that play into that. We've jumped $50,000 from the beginning of this year till now. The average sales price is now $350,000. And we've been watching it and trying to figure out the problem we're running into in the real estate market is that at the same time last year, our inventory has dropped dramatically. With COVID, people stopped moving. With COVID, they stopped moving into these multiplexes. We had this huge boom going on in downtown Seattle, where there was going to be all these condo projects and everybody was living on top of each other. We're moving away from single family residences. With COVID, it has done a 180, and people want their space, and they want to not have people, not be in the same ventilation building. And with working from home, people can go, I don't want to live in downtown Portland anymore. I don't want to live that close. So we actually have seen more people from the Portland metro area and even out of state that are driving up the prices in our area. My great concern at this point is our most affordable housing for Marion County is up in the canyon, which we just had all those fires. So you're talking about a lot of the housing that was affordable has been destroyed. And so with those people, we have all these families living with the Red Cross, they're living in hotel rooms. We can't find even houses around here to temporarily house these individuals. You have 50, 60 families. So it's a really very difficult situation. I have no idea how we're gonna fix it. It's just something we need to be continually not just looking at back burner, but we've got to keep it on the front side, because we're going to start to see our homeless families start to increase. I mean, we've got them currently, if the FEMA stuff runs out up in the canyon, they're going to be the ones that are under the bridge on Market Street, and we don't want that. So we need to keep this as a priority of the council going forward. We can't just go, well, we can't do anything about it. We've got to find unique ways, but just from here's what's going on right now in the day-to-day current, this is what the market is doing. So I'll try to get that data and stat update, and I'll try to forward it to you guys, because and I know that I've been sending it to you from the state, but we get it from like the private industries that actually track that on a day-to-day, month-to-month, with the ups and downs and where people are coming in from. So I'll start trying to get that out to the city so you guys can see it.
Thank you. That's tremendously helpful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Parsons or Councilor Herrera, did you want to have any questions or comments?
No,
Okay, I want to make sure I didn't skip anybody. We all good? Well, we've heard from the folks who want to speak. Is there anything else that we need to, before I close this public hearing? Mr. Witham?
No, Madam Mayor.
All right. Public hearing is closed, but I agree with you, Councilor Smith, this will continue to be a front burner issue. People, families depend on that. This takes us then to item 8A, administrative action. Resolution ratifying Finance Director's signature of agreement with Salvation Army for CARES Act Community Support Grant Fund Grant. City Manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Wood.
Madam Mayor, City Council, on November 4th, I entered into agreement with the Salvation Army for a CARES Act Community Support Fund Grant. This is the same agreement that was entered into with St. Vincent de Paul. This allows the city to give up to $175,000 of CARES Act funding to the Salvation Army for utility, mortgage, and rental assistance for residents experiencing financial distress as a result of the impacts of COVID-19. To give you a little bit of an update with respect to not necessarily the Salvation Army agreement, but the St. Vincent agreement, they are going through money very fast. At this point, they've spent about $100,000 over the last 5 weeks. That money is based off of self-identified race information. 63% of that went to Caucasians, 35% went to Hispanics, 1% went to Asians, and 1% went to African Americans. That money is being used to, the breakdown of how it's being used is 22% went for water assistance, 13% went for electricity, 1% for garbage, 61% for rent and mortgage assistance. So people are definitely hurting as far as rent and mortgage goes. That's the biggest piece of the need out there. And then 3% went for natural gas. I've had the St. Vincent de Paul people in my office, and they tell us stories of people coming to them in tears and how we're helping get people's lives back together again. So this is having an immediate impact in our community right now. So I'm excited to do this. And with that, if there's any questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Council President Freeman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So Tim, my question is, Salvation Army will collect the same demographic information, so we would have it for both of our partners that we're partnering with. And I know, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe all the marketing and outreach is going to be done by our two partners, or are we also putting information out on our website and or Facebook or any other social medias to direct people to both of these agencies?
Yes, we're very active in getting the word out. I have 2 utility billing folks calling everyone they know and passing the information out. We've included flyers in all of the utility statements as well. Every opportunity we have, we've been telling people about it. So again, if you're sitting at home listening to this and you're wondering how to come up with money for rent, utilities, mortgage, give us a call. We can direct you to either St. Vincent's or Salvation Army. They're there to help, and they have a very fast turnaround. Last week, we had someone who came to us about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and by 4 o'clock, we had their $300 water bill paid. So please reach out. There's a lot of help out there. And we have a deadline, December 30th. I need to get $500,000 out to people, so give us a call.
Great. Thank you, Tim.
Thank you for being so quick to meet people's needs in a time of where people are very stressed out, knowing that they're being cared for so quickly and with such caring. Thank you. That is awesome. Any other questions on this? Council President Freeman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that the Kaiser City Council adopt Resolution R 2020, ratifying Finance Director's signing of agreement with the Salvation Army for CARES Act Community Support Fund Grant.
Second that.
It's been moved and seconded that the Kaiser City Council adopt Resolution R 2020, ratifying Finance Director's signing of agreement with Salvation Army for CARES Act Community Support Fund Grant. Any further discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion passes unanimously. Keep up the good work. That takes us to item 8B, the Council Rules of Procedure Work Group. City Manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. City Attorney.
Thank you, Chris, Madam Mayor, and Council. Councilors Smith, Kohler, Parsons, and Reed requested a review of the Council Rules of Procedure for an upcoming agenda. In addition, you may remember the Charter Review Committee suggested looking at the Council Rules of Procedures after the election. That was due to several instances where there were issues that may be appropriate for the procedures rules, but not necessarily for the charter. The mayor suggested forming a work group to do that. Council procedures allow a work group to be formed. We don't usually, unlike a formal task force or committee, we usually don't do a formal resolution for that. So a motion to form the work group would be appropriate. If that motion is successful, then the mayor should appoint 3 councilors as a work group. And I'll remind council, of course, that although it's a subcommittee of the council, it is still formally a public body under the public meetings rules. It still would need to follow all public meetings rule, that subcommittee. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Are there any questions? All right. Council President Freeman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that the Kaiser City Council move to the formation of a council work group to review the council rules of procedure and propose changes to council.
Second that.
It's been moved and seconded that the Kaiser City Council approve formation of a work group to review the council rules of procedures and propose changes to the council. Any further discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, say no. Motion passes unanimously. So the 3 councilors that I would like to appoint to the work group to do that first cut, to bring us back something to start working from, are councilors Reed, Smith, and Kohler. I would ask that the councilors go through the rules and procedures. If councilors want changes considered, and I have a few that I'll be emailing to the 3 of you, please do so. And that if we could have a first cut, hopefully by the end of January, for the new council to have a work session to go through. If you don't think that's going to be a reasonable time frame to come back for that work session on that, please let me know and we will adjust that accordingly. And then we'll kind of proceed as way opens. Okay? Thank you very much. Thanks for the follow-up on that. Let's get that modernized as well. Consent calendar. Council President Freeman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. There's 5 items on the consent calendar tonight. 9A is a resolution authorizing the finance director to enter into extension of support contract with Telview Corporation for video server. 9B is extending the city manager's employment contract 2021-2022. 9C, resolution extending the city attorney's employment contract for the year 21-22. Approval of the October 26, 2020 City Council work session minutes. And 9E is approval of November 2nd, 2020 City Council regular session minutes.
Thank you very much. Are there any polls? Council President Freeman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that the Kaiser City Council approve the consent calendars, items 9A through E.
Second that.
The consent calendars, items A through E, have been moved and seconded. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously for the consent calendar. Council liaison reports. Councilor Kohler, can I start with you tonight?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. A lot's gone on. We had a work session last week, which was pretty interesting. On the 11th, I attended the chamber board meeting. Chambers made a decision to send somebody to council meetings as long as we were able to actually have council meetings on a fairly regular basis, and that'll be good to see them here. The tree lighting that will be on December 1st will be a virtual tree lighting. And so it'll be on the city, can we put that on the city Facebook page? Or is that something that we can't do?
City Manager, I believe we can put the virtual tree lighting on our city, or at least link to the video. Not a problem.
6 o'clock, I believe. And they indicated that they would like us there if we can be there.
Okay.
And March 20th will be the first Citizens Banquet. And,
March?
March 20th,
Yeah.
what they said.
All right, that's good. I just want to make sure I heard that correctly.
And that may be virtual depending on what's going on, so. The Giving Basket, the chamber is going to do food gathering with the Miracle of the Lights in the Gubster neighborhood, probably at Gubster School. And they wanted to know if we wanted to help with that. So it's a little bit different than what it was last year, because I think there was some question about where we did it before. They're not going to be doing any gathering there, but we would be able to do it at the school. So that's something we can talk a little bit more about. Then that sounds like that's going to be December 4th, 5th, and 6th from 6 to 10 p.m. And if we want to help with that, then we just need to ask for a date and time. And then a little announcement with Daniel Bethel being elected to be a county commissioner, that leaves a vacancy as the executive director. And they want to spend a little time to do some research to find the right one. And they have made an agreement with Mark Collier to be the interim chamber board executive director. That was approved that was approved at this last meeting, and he will start December 1st. And they're going to be hanging Christmas lights and the decorations this month. Those should be going up here pretty quick. And they ask about services to homeless for businesses and starting to see more and more duration shelters. So that's something that they ask us a little bit about, ask us to do some research. On the 12th, I attended the commissioner's breakfast.
May I? I don't mean to interrupt you, but I actually have the answer to that question. To keep it in context, 2 duration shelters are scheduled to open very shortly. One toward the end of this month and one on December 1st. One's on Portland Road, and I'll have to look back into my notes where the other one is. But these are low barrier shelters to help get more and more of our unsheltered population into safe and sheltered areas. Also additional capacity regarding some of the vulnerable folks for COVID, and increasing the number of hotel rooms and other facilities is also being worked on as we speak. Great partnerships with Salem, City of Salem, Arches, and a number of agencies all working collaboratively to increase the number of shelter beds. So that is, those are coming online.
Okay,
Thank you for asking the question.
You'll send me the information about where those are and when they're scheduled to open?
I will.
Thank you. And then I can get back with the chamber. Thank you. Attended the commissioner's breakfast. That was very interesting. It was, it's always interesting to be with the commissioners and hear their stories. Communities need to stick together to help and address homelessness. That was one of our topics. Equity in courts was another topic that we did, and I'll let Councilor Freeman talk more about some of the other things. Still on the 12th, I attended the Traffic Safety Bike Ped Committee, and they're looking at adding additional connections to bike paths, and they have some safe route to school things they'd like to talk to us about at some point. And I announced to them that that would be my last meeting with them, since they're not going to be holding a meeting in December. I got to thank them for putting up with me at that particular meeting. On the 13th, I attended the LOC call on shelter and housing, homeless. There was some talk in there about purchasing hotels. I was thinking, what hotels could we purchase here in town? But
Don't start rumors, please.
yeah, that's not going to happen. So they have $30 million to do turnkey projects, and so I was just thinking, I don't know that we can really do many of those. So anyway, there are some things we may be able to do, some grants and some different things, but it was an interesting call, and I'm sure Mayor will talk more about that. The last thing I wanted to do was just say and wish everybody a safe and wonderful Thanksgiving. Enjoy what you can, and that's it for tonight.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Councilor Reed.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We had a Personnel Policy Committee meeting, and which we do quarterly, and then we also have another one coming up on November 23rd. So it's always fascinating to be part of that and see how well our staff uses our resources. We also had a Southeast Kaiser Neighborhood Association meeting, and one of our board members for Southeast Kaiser Neighborhood Association meeting is Rachel Cancino, who is on staff at Weddell. And she was able to provide us with some really interesting insights into how Weddell, as a representative elementary school in Kaiser, is managing the challenges of not only distance learning, but the economic challenges that we are currently facing. And so really appreciate her efforts and helping us understand that a little bit more. And yes, that was a fascinating conversation. I guess just other than the usual assignments, the work sessions, and we've been very busy in terms of our work sessions, and I really appreciate those efforts. But in terms of what we're doing in McNary, we are doing some really great work there. As you can imagine, distance learning is a real challenge for a lot of kids, and we have a lot of Fs. And this is nationwide for everybody who's doing distance, but especially statewide. And it is a real challenge. And McNary is kind of the flagship in the district and in many ways in the state in terms of figuring out how to mitigate that problem. And so we've been having limited in-person instruction, LIPI. So anyway, we've been doing a lot of that, bringing in very targeted populations of kids, a lot of the special ed kids, a lot of the English learners, but they're not just limited to that. We've had other kids who just are having technical difficulties or who just need that little person-to-person instruction or mentoring, and we've had some real success with those. We've been very careful as to the guidelines surrounding those in terms of the health precautions and all of those other things. And we have managed to get our Fs down, I think, from somewhere around, I can't remember the high, and I'm not going to say, but we have the Fs down to somewhere around 17%, which is way below the state average. And we've been garnering some media attention from some of the Portland stations and so forth in acknowledgement of those efforts and just how we are addressing those things. And it takes a lot of people's efforts, and it's a real challenge. We've just finished the first quarter, going into the second quarter tomorrow. And this is a challenge for everyone, and it's important to support each other and realize the kind of anxiety and stress that is surrounding these on all levels. Kids, families, teachers. This is a really difficult work, and it takes the efforts from many different perspectives to be as successful as we can in this. And it's easy to focus on the negative in these respects, especially when you're in the thick of it, but to be able to look at the positives and the things that we're grateful for. That's one thing that I took my advisory class. We talked about things you're grateful for and how that's just an exercise in building happiness. And so that is one thing that we need to do as a community, is to be able to to not only acknowledge and express gratitude, but look for the good things, whether it's spending more time with your cats and dogs and pets and so forth, or your family members. Focusing on the positive is what will get us through this and help us all to be more optimistic about the future. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you for your service to our students. I'm so gratified to know that you and the students, the families, and the staff at McNary have chosen to become that flagship and to try things to make sure our students succeed. That 17% sounds dreadful until you look at the rest of the state and you go, wow, that was a monumental achievement.
It was up around 40%, I want to say, and that's, each kid has 4 classes and there's Fs, and so anyway, there's, statistics are not my forte, but.
No, but the students are.
Well, thank you, yes.
So keep up the good work. We know you'll get into that single digits very soon.
Yes.
Thank you. Council President Freeman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just to follow up on Councilor Reed's comments. So if there are parents listening and they may need additional resources, do you refer them to the school of the children attending?
Depends on what kind of resources they're looking for, but yes, there are. Just one example, I'm scanning all of the textbook material and my kids can read them online. That is horrible for a lot of kids. So, if it's as simple as going to the library to check out a textbook, accommodations can be made, especially on those smaller scales. So it kind of depends on what resource you're looking for, but there are resources on the district website, there are on the individual school websites, a lot of the individual schools. The Kaiser Network of Women is still very active in the Celtic closets and the different closets around the district. So, and especially at this time of year, they're building, they're identifying the families that need the help. And so getting in touch with their counselors and letting those needs be known as well. So it depends on the kind of resource, but there's lots of help and support out there. And so you're not alone.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
So I did attend the Marion County Commissioners Breakfast, and I just want to let everyone that I'm sure already knows, but Sam Bertano will be retiring. And so he has jokingly said he has about 15 minutes. It must be next month's Marion County Commissioner Breakfast. I'm going to assume he's going to have more than that to say goodbye and have his statement and have a donut, because that's what he's asked for, I guess, is a donut. So, and I do owe everyone a report. I just totally kind of forgot that. But we did, just talk about actually lots of different things. And the 2 things Councilor Kohler brought up must have been after I left, because I'm like, I don't remember that conversation. But one thing I think, and I know Councilor Smith has a lot more information, but if someone who has been impacted by the fires up in the canyon, Santiam Hospital has the foundation, and Commissioner Wills was talking about people going to apply for assistance whom may not receive assistance from FEMA or who may not have insurance. And so you apply, and the committee makes a determination, and he thought they were very, very fair on what they would fund. And so that's just another avenue for people who have experienced that hardship. So, but we talked about FEMA, COVID, lots of different things. So it's always a good meeting. We do have Planning Commission this Wednesday, the 18th, 6 o'clock here in council chambers. Councilor Kohler alluded to that the lights will be displayed, and so thank you to Dave Wallery and the Elves for getting all the lights ready and placed, both on the large Christmas tree and along River Road and Cherry and Shamawa. I say this, I think, every meeting, but if you are a walker, either in the morning or in the evening, Mayor, probably should make sure that you have reflectors on front and back, sideways, wherever. So, and I would say make sure your pets have some sort of either reflector leash or something, just because as we know, it's dark and very dark out there, depending on the time of day. So just make sure that you can be seen. Would echo Councilor Kohler to have a wonderful Turkey Day, however you choose to celebrate. And I can say I've already started my Christmas shopping. So, life is good at the Freeman household. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Well, and our small businesses appreciate that very much. Councilor Smith.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I first want to apologize to the Kaiser Arts Commission because the last couple times I've absolutely just gotten stuck at work and not been able to make it. But I will say they have done a fantastic job, and I believe and I'm looking at Michelle back there, is it the quilts are up now? So I think they're going to be up.
I don't know if they are right now, but they will.
Not yet.
Yeah.
Doesn't look
so
like it.
I saw the pictures of them, and they're just really beautiful, and I've come to really like quilts lately because they take a lot of work. So I did see that they have those coming in. Also the 2021 Christmas card for the city that we get every year. And last year we had this brilliant idea of actually having people start submitting it during the Christmas season for the following year. So they will be accepted through March, and that will be for next year's card. So that way we could actually get a good turnout. So that seems to have worked a little bit better. On top of that, the Santiam integration team, which is talking about the wildfires, really has been amazing. That is Santiam Hospital. They have a 501c3 set up. During this time, as we've been trying, everybody, when the fires hit, everybody wanted to donate. And they have done a wonderful job of organizing the help for the individuals. Because although we think things are great and that the government will come in and save the day, as we've learned through this process, that's not necessarily how it works. And government is slow. And so there was just a lot of needs. And I worked pretty closely with Candy Page as we were trying to assist people in Detroit. And Dina Ferris Lumber, she got with them and they got the Santiam Wildfire Relief Fund established. And I think they've brought in, it's over $2 million in donations. And they have a committee of people that if you are affected and you need whatever it is, gas cards, if you need food, if you need to be housed, they have got people into housing. They have just done a spectacular job. And I'm lucky that once a week I actually get to be on a call with those ladies and the people from United Way who have just, I gotta be honest, I haven't always been a big United Way fan, but man, this group here just is amazing. And I'm so impressed with what they've been doing and just their willingness to work and partner so we could find those people that really needed the help that maybe just didn't want to say they needed help, because believe it or not, people do that. So I'm just very blessed, and I feel like I've been spending a lot of time up there and helping in that community. So thank you for allowing me to do that. I know I'm in Kaiser and I should be doing stuff here, but it's our neighbors, and I'm just very grateful that I'm able to assist and help get through this. And now we're working on figuring out how to do adopting families, because everybody wants to adopt a family. And so that's my latest project. So let's see if I can figure that one out. But thank you all, and thank you, City of Kaiser. We get a lot of recognition in a lot of these meetings as to how amazingly we just jumped up and we took care of our neighbors, and it's very, very, very appreciated by those small communities. So thank you all for being so very Kaiser-like. That's all I got.
Thank you very much. I want to echo that. People throughout Kaiser, we told our neighbors in the canyon we were in this for the long haul. You're doing it. Keep going. Keep going. All of our neighbors in the canyon. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Councilor Parsons, welcome back.
Thank you. It's cold here.
Poor thing.
We came home in shorts and t-shirts. That was kind of dumb. Sorry about. So this Thursday we have a volunteer coordinating committee meeting. I haven't had a chance to go over the whole packet, but I know that we do have some people that have volunteered. We're getting a good base of volunteers coming in right now, and it's amazing. We have a work session on Monday. And then I wanted to ask Counselor Kohler, when you were at the chamber, did they mention the Gubser lights, that there was not going to be a food collection this year? I've heard that, and I just wanted,
Yeah, there was quite a discussion about that, actually. So in the past, there's been a food collection and money
And donation,
donation, and they're not going to do that this year. And the giving baskets always depended on a weekend worth of food to help give people food that they might need during the holidays. Because it sounds like what they're going to do is put a QR code up and ask for donations that way. But that doesn't fulfill the need for the giving basket. And so the chamber had asked if there was a way that they could do that within that setting, and there was some disagreements and it just didn't work. And so permission to have a collection spot at Gubser School was granted, and so that's what they've set up.
oh, okay, so I just wanted our listeners to know, because it hasn't really been out there very much, that people who do go through the route, I know people going a year, they're not going to be collecting that food. So please just bring your QR code on your phone and donate that way.
Well, but that's kind of one of the interesting parts, because they still can donate to the chamber that way for the giving baskets.
For the giving baskets at Gubser School though, but that's not on the route, right? Gubser School's
It
not
will
on the
be
route.
on the route.
Oh, it will be this year?
Mhm.
Oh, well, there you go. Sorry about that. So but that's for the giving baskets though, right? That's not the tent that's set up on Mistwood. That's where
Correct.
the QR code, okay.
That is correct. So that'll go for the giving baskets, and what is left over from the giving baskets go to Kaiser Food Bank.
Oh, very good. Okay, great.
Sorry, I
And-
should have been more clear.
No, that's okay. And that's all I got. That's
right.
it. Thanks.
You bet. Councilor Herrera.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Welcome back, Councilor Parsons. I'm sure you missed me.
I missed everything.
Anyway, we attended, I attended the CTEC Advisory Board along with Mayor Clark, and I'll just hit on you can fill up the rest of it. I mean, I was fascinated by the new facility behind, they say the old Toys R Us, but I say behind Los Valles or whatever, Casa Valles. And on Lancaster, they have a new, they're working on it, similar to our CTEC facility, but this is going to be for the rest of the state. And they're going to have the same type of programs. I think they have pretty much everything that we have at CTEC right now. That's what they're going to, 6 programs, you're right. And then they named them all, but I can't remember them all. But anyway, that's going to be something pretty exciting. And what is the schedule on that? Do you remember?
They're going to be starting to open some of that, I believe, next year.
Yeah.
And then it's going to be open through our 21 school districts in the Willamette Valley. So it's not for the whole state, it's for our area.
Right.
And so this one is going to serve the other 20. So we have CTEC for Career Technical Education Center for Salem Kaiser School District, and this is going to provide that same kind of service for the other 20 districts.
And it's pretty much modeled after CTEC, although there's a few differences, but it's, I'm pretty excited about that. We're gonna have the two within a mile of each other, if that. Also, I attended with LAC, we're kind of holding back on a lot of our projects. We are looking for, as I mentioned today in our Kaiser United meeting, we are looking for a way to help out a volunteer week group, as well as another group that we're trying to put together. We're trying to help out with Kaiser United or identify something, and we've kind of identified helping the teachers for in the Kaiser area, and we haven't come up with anything quite yet, because in the past it's been coats and shoes and that type of thing, but we want to do something because of the distant learning that we want to show our appreciation for our teachers, and we all pretty much agreed on that. I had a whole bunch of Zooms too. The LOC Zoom, one of them, and the OLL Leadership Network, Latino Leadership Network Zoom, that was pretty good. Anthony Bellis, who used to be the head of the Oregon Education Association, he runs that, and it's just well run by Latinos from all through the state. Also, I participated in a BIPOC elected officials roundtable. It was all Zoom too. Also, let's see here. Marion County Public Safety Coordinating Council Executive Committee. We had interesting meeting, and we're all doing all virtual, of course, and a lot of our meetings have been, it's gotten to where I pretty much getting pretty good at Zooms, so it's very interesting. I also want to congratulate some of the members of our Color Caucus with the League of Oregon Cities. My good friend Alex Johnson became the first person of color elected mayor of Albany, Alex for Albany. And then Tim Hall is the mayor of Garibaldi and also a member of our caucus, and David Imami, who's one of the instrumental guys and was a counselor for Happy Valley, he was originally appointed, but he's elected this time. And I see his picture was in the front page of the Oregonian, so he called me this morning, and I didn't realize that. But it's so exciting to see some of our guys. Also, two new members of our caucus were elected for Cornelius, Councilor Dolores Gomez and Angela Valencia. So I just wanted to shout out to them. And thank those people that have been working hard. Some have attended some of our roundtables sponsored by PCUN for elected officials, and it's been really rewarding to watch some of these guys go to our classes and follow through and then actually run for office and then get elected. So it's kind of, I also want to say just one thing. I'm really grateful for our leaders that rely on science and healthcare experts to make these critical life-saving decisions, and I really appreciate that we have folks doing that care about everybody, so that's all I got. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Just a couple of things to add. So the Mid-Willamette Valley Homeless Alliance I did refer to earlier. We had our executive committee and then our full board committee met on the 12th. So a number of initiatives I mentioned earlier are moving forward quickly. The duration shelters, we're going to be looking at also the Tanner Project has now opened. That's for housing for men and women veterans. Check that out on Facebook. It's a collaboration with Arches and the City of Salem and other agencies all working together. Right now, the Alliance is putting together a collaborative application for some of the money through the Emergency Solutions Grant to provide for housing and shelter for people in our area. So we're looking forward to hopefully being successful with that grant application. And again, it's all working together rather than competing with each other, everybody else, finding out what they can do together and then putting in one application for comprehensive services. Let's see, on the 5th, MWAC, the Mid-Willamette Area Commission on Transportation, continued work on the 2024 to 2027 STIP, the Statewide Transportation Improvement Program. ODOT and the ADA, the American with Disabilities Act program, and then the Transportation Safety Action Plan. On the 6th, I'm a member of the United Way Women United, and Safe Sleep is continuing to provide services for homeless women to be able to sleep safely and begin to access services as they begin to heal and move forward with their lives. That program continues to deliver and do tremendous work and provide not only for the women, but they also learn to take care of each other, and it's been tremendously successful. The Red Cart program, providing feminine hygiene products for women and girls, has mostly been housed in the schools, but since the schools are not open per se, but as Councilor Reed pointed out, the closets here in Kaiser are still providing what students need, and that includes also for our girls and young women. So we want to encourage people to contribute through the Red Cart program to provide for those very important needs for our women and girls in our area. Also going now is the pajama drive. This provides pajamas for men, women, and children in foster care, who are in shelters and homeless, and other organizations that are reaching out to families. So if you wanted, you can either do it virtually and buy pajamas that way, or go shopping and drop those off at United Way. Let's see. I'll move down here. I already covered that. The Mid-Willamette Valley Council of Governments, the Executive Director Search Committee, we are preparing for interviews with our 3 finalists. With the freeze put on us, we're not going to be able to do the in-person, so we are changing how we're going to do that. We were hoping to bring the 3 candidates here 2 of them are from out of state. We will be doing them virtually, but setting up a series of meetings with community members, staff, and the members of the Council of Governments from our 3-county area. So we're looking forward to having that completed hopefully by the end of the year and get that person here and started as the new executive director. Let's see. SEDCOR, the Strategic Economic Development Corporation, will be online. And again, we are members, so I encourage any counselor that would like to attend the virtual lunch meeting, please do so. On the 19th, I will be starting with a new group, the Portland Women's Leadership Summit. So this is their kickoff, and I was invited. I pointed out to them I'm not in Portland. They said, we want you anyway, and I'm like, okay. So I'm looking forward to visiting with women leaders from around the valley. They wanted to invite women who do not live and serve in the Portland area to be part of this so they could expand their connection with more of the state. And I was happy to be part of that. Okay, we talked about that. And the only thing I want to add, the SEDCOR Board of Directors, of which I'm a member, will be meeting on the 2nd. We haven't had a meeting in quite some time, so we'll be catching up on what's happening. And there's been a lot going on in our 3-county area. I want to give a huge shout out to SEDCOR, the construction companies that have come together to help make sure that people who are going to rebuild or do repairs in the canyon know who they're dealing with. So by having our local businesses all available in one place, a one-stop shop, if you will, you don't have to guess if this is a company that's going to be here tomorrow. These are SEDCOR members. These are companies right here that hire local people, and they're going to be here for the families and the neighborhoods in the canyon for reconstruction. So very, very important if people are looking to hire local, hire people we know, and that way we can keep the jobs and the reliability and the trust here. Okay, so that's about all I've got for right now. SCATS, the Salem Kaiser Area Transportation Study, will meet on the 24th, and that's about all I've got. Okay, so nothing going on. Councilor Kohler.
I do have one thing that I overlooked. The giving basket tags for the children are on trees now at the following location: Mommy and Maddie's, Los Dos Hermanos, Willamette Valley Bank, Columbia Bank, Courthouse Athletic Club, St. Edward Catholic Church, Copycats Physique Fitness, Celtic Storage, Chicken Shack, and the Kaiser Liquor Store. And just remind you to go and pick one of those up, or a whole handful of them up, and then bring those back filled on 12th floor.
All right, December 4th?
December 4th.
Okay, to the chamber office or
Yes.
to the?
To the chamber office, and the Santa Central this year is going to be in the, what do they call that? The Kaiser, what do they call that? Kaiser,
Well, some of those places are closed.
That's what I was going to say. What about the?
Kaiser Village Shopping Center.
There you go.
Okay,
There you
Kaiser
go.
Village,
I knew it
okay.
was somewhere.
All
It's
right.
the old ATA building.
Oh, yeah, okay.
'Cause they moved out of that and moved down a couple of doors. And that was, Scott Chernoff volunteered to let us use that this year.
That's very
For
generous.
Santa Central, they call it.
Okay, Santa Central is next to Chicken Shack at Kaiser Village.
Yes.
Got it. All right. Councilor Herrera.
Madam Mayor, if I may, I almost forgot something, and this you'll appreciate because we all know her. I wanted to congratulate Wendy Velis, like you guys said. She was elected to City Council of Aurora.
Yep.
So I don't know if you guys know that. And also, I shouldn't have forgotten her, but of all people, because everybody remembers her. But also, my good friend Jules Walters was elected mayor of Westland. She was a councilor forever. We always team up when we go to conferences. But she is wonderful. She's gonna be a great mayor. So I didn't want to forget both those two young ladies. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you very much. Okay, that takes us to other business. This time is provided to allow the mayor, city council members, or staff an opportunity to bring new or old matters before the council that are not on tonight's agenda. And City Manager, I understand we have an issue of municipal court software to add to tonight's agenda.
That's right.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes. When we get to Shannon, or we'll get to that.
Do you want to go around to that and
I do,
finish up?
since he's just right here and he'll kind of wrap us all up, so.
All right.
A couple of things.
Sounds like a plan.
So, Tracy, do you have anything? I do not have anything. Okay, Tracy has nothing. Tim?
I do have something tonight. Just wanted to pass along. This time of year, I always get a little bit nervous waiting for the Government Finance Officer Association to let us know how our financial statements turned out. I'm pleased to let all of you know that for the 21st year in a row, we've received the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting.
Yay.
I guess the sign of the times, I typically get a package in the mail with a flip folder and a glossy piece of paper. This year I just got an email and a link to go print out my own certificate. Anyway, this is just one of the ways that we as a city try to reflect the trust that the citizens give us with their financial resources. This is one way that we're faithful stewards of what they've given us. So not every city gets this award. I was doing some quick back of the napkin kind of math, and throughout the entire U.S., only maybe 20% of the cities out there even try to get this award. So we're in the top 20% as far as financial stewardship goes. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Congratulations. Would you please make sure that gets on Facebook?
It's not as shiny as it was last year, but I'll try.
Okay.
Shane?
I have nothing more to add tonight.
Mr. Lawyer. Councilor Johnson, I know you have several things.
I do have a couple things. Thank you, Chris, Madam Mayor, and Council. I sent out an email earlier today on what we call a walk-on item. We try to avoid these, but had a situation with a software program with Justice Systems Incorporated to provide software update to the municipal court, which hasn't been updated in many years. And the reason for the rush, we would normally wait 2 weeks to put this on the agenda. We couldn't get it in the packet because we didn't have confirmation of it in time last week, is that part of the program will allow remote payments, contactless payments. Also, the defendants in municipal court actions can check their court records, my understanding. And because of that, it will qualify for CARES funding. But to do that, we need to finish it up by the end of the year, and it's a 6-week turnaround, so we're kind of cutting it close. So Tim was disappointed when it didn't make the packet last week, so we made an exception to walk it on. As you know, with walk-on items, since it's not on the agenda, we first need a motion to suspend the rules, and when that motion is successful, then the motion to adopt the attached resolution. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Council President Freeman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that the Kaiser City Council suspend the rules to take up the matter of the municipal court software.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded that the Kaiser City Council suspend the rules to take up the matter of municipal court software. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion passes unanimously. Council President Freeman, we'll put a motion on the table and we can discuss.
The resolution, correct?
The resolution,
Yeah,
yes.
okay. I move that the Kaiser City Council adopt Resolution R 2020, authorizing Finance Director to enter into full court enterprise upgrade and site pay with Justice Systems, Inc.
Second that.
It's been moved and seconded that the Kaiser City Council adopt Resolution R 2020, authorizing Finance Director to enter into full court enterprise upgrade and site pay with Justice Systems, Inc. Any discussion? Councilor Kohler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a comment, I appreciate that we were forward-looking and made that agreement multi-year, so we had discounts on it.
Saving more money. Like it. Also, thank you for seeing the opportunity to help more people be able to have control over their financial dealings with our court and making it more accessible. I think that's part of what we want to do, make it easier for people. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion passes unanimously. Mr. Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I did have one other item. Prior to the meeting, some of the councilors expressed desire maybe to discuss the council meetings, future meetings with regard to OSHA rules. And so if the council wishes to have future meetings by Zoom, it'd be appropriate to consider the matter tonight. And if you wish, suspend the rules and make a motion to have the next meetings by Zoom. So council procedures allow that. As we know, I think you folks know, and for the audience, Zoom just simply doesn't work if it's part of you. It's kind of an all or nothing thing. It just technically is just very difficult if you want to have a couple of people here, but the rest by Zoom or whatever. So it's up to the council to decide if you want to move that direction. But if you wish to, then you should probably suspend the rules and make a motion to that effect.
Thank you very much. I also have that on my list of things to discuss this evening. So let's go ahead and do we want to have that conversation about going back to all Zoom or continue to meet in person under the conditions that we are in right now with limited seating, all online access for people to observe, and all of us sitting here with undercover? Council President Freeman?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Did we have people in the lobby tonight that could not sit here with us?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I saw the people standing, but okay. Thank you. That was my question.
So if we want to proceed with going back to Zoom, we would need to suspend the rules to take up that matter. If we do not want to go back to doing all Zoom, then we would not. I'll go to Councilor Herrera and then Councilor Parsons.
I myself, I think if we all go to Zoom, I kind of like that in a way, especially now that it's really, I know my doctor called me and he was really worried about just coming here, but I mean, I would say if we go to Zoom for everything Zoom, not part, because I don't like that. That doesn't work very well. But I would be in favor of going to Zoom. I don't know how everybody else feels about it, especially during this next at least 2 meetings. And my question would be, is there a complication in regards to the logistics of putting that together for us to go to Zoom like we had at one time?
Well, that's a good...
Is it tough to do, or who's the guy?
We still have the same resources that we had available to us before. Again, it is going to be somewhat challenging based off of everyone's individual home settings at home. So if you don't have the high-speed internet, yeah, there could be some issues.
That's right. I just remembered.
Yeah, there was a...
Well, that's just my 2 cents. I mean, if you guys determine you'd rather not and do it here, that's fine. But I would like to look at Zoom anyway. So it's up to you folks. It's fine with me.
It's up to all of us. That's why we're having this conversation. Okay. So, no, I appreciate, that's why I want to hear from all of you how you feel about it, and then we can make a decision. Mr. Epley.
I also want to remind Councilor Herrera that he could, if he has a medical condition that you're concerned about, you could call in also if the council wanted to meet physically and you didn't for a good reason. I mean, that would be an option also.
I'm aware of that option.
Okay.
Thank you.
Councilor Parsons?
Yes, Madam Mayor, would this just be like for the next couple meetings, or is this going forward? Because I don't want to hinder what's going on. I mean, I'd like to be here January 2nd to say goodbye kind of thing, or 6th or whatever day it is.
Given the fact, well, it's up to us how long we believe that would be prudent, and we could decide a month at a time, or we could, I don't know what that's going to do with our resource allocation or advance notice to people so they would know, because part of this, that's the transparency. So that's part of what we have to weigh here. But, like it's 2020, I don't know. I don't know. Yes, Councilor?
I would say that, during January, when we swear the new councilors in, I would be appropriate to be here, I would think myself. So that would be something that maybe we consider, maybe at least like the next two, if we do go to Zoom, and then go from there in terms of, but as far as January, it would be appropriate to swear in our new councilors here, and that would be the right thing to do, I would think, you know.
And I would hope so by then too, that we kind of know how things are going, overall here in Marion County. We know that for the next few weeks, that we are going to be taking additional steps, precautions, et cetera.
And that is precisely what I brought up, because I know it's not gonna get any better in the next few weeks. So I was thinking the next two meetings at least, so I guess I would make that motion.
Well, we have to have a motion to suspend the rules, then we can make the motion on that, so. Councilor Reed?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm just, yes, we have the two meetings, but we also have a work session on the 30th, and are we having a work session on the 14th as well that would be included in this?
Well,
That's up to us again.
if we move forward with this, then I would probably propose to the group that we postpone the November 30th, because it is not time sensitive. It's subject, very high priority, but it is not time sensitive. So I would ask that we push that one forward. The 14th probably would have to be the same thing, or we'd do some sort of Zoom conversation. That is something I think we could do to talk about our council goals and have our councilors-elect, Kyle Duran and Ross Day in on that conversation about kind of do that handoff on our council goals. I think that's something we could do on Zoom. But for the 30th, I would probably recommend that we postpone that one. That's just my 2 cents worth. But that's a good point, how much, which meetings are going to be put forward.
And then that also begs the question then of the commissions and committees, and are they going Zoom too? Because they usually follow what we do. So does that necessarily have to be like that? Are we making that decision for them by doing this?
Madam Mayor?
Mr. Johnson.
Council procedures allow a board to meet electronically if they wish. So the boards and committees will either have to follow the rules like we have it here, or they will have to meet by Zoom. Or, as Chris pointed out, of course, when an emergency declaration is in effect, like now, individual counselor or committee member can call in too. And before I forget, Mr. Lawyer reminded me, just to confirm, the idea of a few weeks is fine, but the OSHA rules are going to continue till May. I mean, so that doesn't mean you can't meet again. You can meet again in person like this. And certainly the mention about the swearing in ceremony makes sense. But I just want to make sure people weren't connecting the two-week freeze thing with that at all. It's the OSHA rules are continuing until May.
So the OSHA rules, which are the seating arrangement
What
we
you
have
see.
at the moment, and the face coverings and so forth, that's going to be around till May. But in terms of the freeze, that is just the next couple weeks, and then we'll see from there. But in terms of the data.
And also the OSHA rules through May are temporary rules, and OSHA is working on permanent rules past then, so those OSHA requirements could actually carry on for much longer, depending on what happens with vaccines, et cetera.
Which goes back to my earlier statement. I don't know. Okay, any other feelings on this? Councilor Kohler?
Thank you, Mayor Clark. One of the concerns that I have is if we do the Zoom thing, then the public comment part of the meeting is extremely difficult, is it not?
It can be done. I've been on a number of meetings in Zoom where it would hamper the people participating spoken word if they don't have Zoom. but they could call in and just let Tracy know that they're going to be calling in testimony with the same time limits that we have now. And then written, that won't change anything. You know, people can still submit their written testimony. It will be incorporated into the record and posted.
Thank you.
But it will definitely change the tone. Council President Freeman?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So do we have the capability of Zoom webinar? So we could actually have a panel, and then you can give an invite to people that want to do public testimony?
That is correct. We do have the webinar feature.
So that would be an easier and more effective way to address Councilor Kohler's where, I mean, they have to do advance notice to let Tracy or Debbie know, but at least we would have the opportunity for people to participate that way, and it would keep our community members involved. So, and I don't know if we have a limit. I'm not a Zoom expert on that, other than I know there's that option, but.
I don't believe that we have I think the limit is high enough that it wouldn't be an issue for us.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Smith?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think that there's an automatic kind of gut wrenching, oh no, not this again. And we, across the board, and we all know that we kind of went all of a sudden to Zoom, and nobody knew what they were doing. I mean, I just remember everybody going, I don't know how to set up my camera, I know this. But I think that we've all figured it out at this point. I mean, we're many, many months in. This isn't something we have to reinvent. We already know what we're doing. So I just want to just reaffirm, I mean, like Roland's on, Councilor Herrera's on Zoom all the time. Like, that's what you do all day, is like your Zoom meetings. So, and I remember at the beginning though, it's a bit of a struggle, and we were sending David over to his house, and that there was an internet service. So I think that we've worked through those. Actually, I would say the staff at the city has worked through those. So I think that, and I don't know about you guys, but I'm on Zoom meetings all the time. I think all of us are with our work. We're going away from that. Now we're going to Microsoft Teams. So, there's all sorts of conferencing formats like that. So I think we'll be okay.
I've also fixed my background already nice, so I have a nice background, so yeah.
I think we've all kind of figured that out, to present ourselves in a professional manner. And there's definitely been many Zoom meetings that I've been on where, like you said, the webinar, where people can then, put in the comments so they can open it up to questions and things like that. So I think that we're just so much further ahead than we were at the beginning of this. And that, I get that it's not a good feeling to have to go back to it, but I think it's prudent to do it at this time, especially with everything going on. We just don't know. And we can always, the good news is it sounds like we can change our mind. Correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
May I add something?
I'm going to go to Mr. Johnson, then Councilor.
Well, just to follow up on Councilor Smith's point and some of the discussion here, after a motion to suspend, if you want to go that direction, your motion can be specific with regard to, for example, the December meetings, and to be revisited if you want to do it that way.
Okay. Councilor Herrera?
Yeah, I just want to add that, a lot of folks are comfortable now with Zoom, so like kind of and that's kind of like I noticed that, folks are comfortable and they're at home, and I think there will be more participation than you think, put it that way.
Well, I think
now that folks are comfortable with it.
Yeah, I think I agree. A lot of people do feel comfortable, and we've seen just with our metrics on people watching our council meetings, and being more aware of what we're doing, which is great. We want to be as visible as we can be in the community, so I think it's an opportunity that way. Okay, so why don't we put a motion on the table to suspend the rules, take up the matter regarding Zoom meeting.
Thank you,
Council President Freeman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that we suspend the rules to discuss the December meetings via Zoom.
I'll second that.
It's moved and seconded to suspend the rules to take up the matter of December meetings by Zoom. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. Motion passes unanimously. So I noticed in your motion it was specific to December.
Correct.
Okay. Councilor Reed.
So just clarification on that November 30th work session then, is that indeed canceled, or are we just meeting normally for that work session, or what are we doing with that?
I'm going to recommend when we complete this action that we postpone.
Okay.
But that's up to us to complete that, but that's going to be my recommendation. Council President Freeman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that the Kaiser City Council adopt the December 7th, December 14th, and December 21st meetings via Zoom, and can relook at that at any time between now and when the meetings concur.
And I second that.
It's been moved and seconded that the Kaiser City Council move the meetings on December 7, 14, and 21 to the Zoom platform with the option to revisit at any time between now and with a friendly amendment to revisit that within the time period necessary for public notice.
Yes.
Councilor Herrera, you okay with that friendly amendment?
I'm sorry?
The friendly amendment to
Oh,
change
yes,
the
yeah.
notification for.
Second, on that, with the
Okay.
friendly amendment, yes, ma'am.
Public notice timeframe.
Yes.
Okay, further discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes 6-1 with Councilor Kohler as a no. And then at some point in December, then we can decide if we want to have meetings in January, kind of depending on what the situation is, and we can make decisions from there. Mr. Wood, with that, how much of a difficulty is that going to create in terms of workload if we don't decide now?
I don't think it'll be an issue at this point, so.
Okay. All right.
Madam Mayor.
Council President Freeman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Will we have the ability to log on like 20 minutes prior or 30 minutes prior, just so everyone can test out their equipment? I've been on some Zoom meetings where it's been that webinar platform, and it just is really nice to have that feature to make sure, you know, your speakers, like last time I blasted everyone out, no one could figure out why. I mean, I don't know, I'm gonna find my little Post-it note that says whisper, because I don't know what my problem was, but, you know, and then we couldn't hear others. So I just, you know, want to make sure that we have that kind of set up, that we have that.
We can definitely do that, have the webinar open and not open to the public until we push the right button.
Perfect, thank you.
All right. That sounds like a good plan, and we will adapt. Okay, what else I got? We didn't go back to see if anybody had questions for staff on any of the other, we didn't circle
Does
back.
anybody have any questions for any of staff on any of the other matters?
So I do have one comment for Mr. Lawyer.
Okay.
They finished the corner at Dearborn and Delight. It's done, it is safe, it is paved, and it's no longer an ankle breaker. So, hooray.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
I was kind of harping on that one because every time I went around it, it's like, oh, somebody's gonna get hurt, so. All right, thank you very much.
Do we need to go back to November 30th? Are we good?
Yeah, I'm going to go to the agenda input now.
Okay.
And so the first item is to postpone the work session on housing equity. So we reduced the number of meetings, and I would ask the city council the option to add that to our council goals discussion for 2021-22, as this is going to be an ongoing issue as we heard tonight. Is there any objection to pushing that one into the new year? All right, the November 30th council work session will be postponed into the new year. Then we will meet, so my second, okay. I just had a brain freeze. The statement of values for December 7th, I sent out a revised version that has some of the blanks filled in because I couldn't type and talk at the same time. So I sent it out to all you all for track changes and comments back. So my question to council is, we have two choices. We can move forward with that version or something similar depending on your input, or we can determine that this will go into the new year as part of our council goals to take another look at and have another run at. So those are the the two approaches that we can take. And so in order to put together the agenda for December 7th, I need to know from all y'all if you want to discuss it on the 7th or move this into council goals. Feedback. Councilor Kohler.
Thank you, Mayor Clark. I would like to be able to do that in person rather than on, so I would just soon move it to council goals.
Okay. Other input? Councilor Herrera?
I'm good with that. I'd be all right. I agree with the folks in person part, but we'll see. What's everybody else think? I think I can go with that, I guess.
I'm looking to all y'all because this has been a lot of hard work has gone into these discussions. We've gotten a lot of input from people. We've had people tell us how hard could it be to write a simple statement that says you are welcome and safe here in Kaiser. We now have an answer to that question. Harder than it looks. We've had input on pass this resolution, and I gave you one. We've had other people tell us, get input from the community. We've had other people tell us, just make sure you listen. And other people say, it's only gonna take a few weeks. And then other people told us to make sure to add, this piece and this piece and this piece. And it's kind of grown. And I think that if we're gonna go through with the one we have now, and then build on that next year, we can do that. Or we can do an all-stop and go into council goals with our incoming councilors and decide where to go from there. It's really up to all you all. I just want to make sure that we're clear with our city staff on what's going to go on the agenda. Councilor Kohler.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Unless we wanted to just make a simple blank statement that just says we welcome everybody, and kind of like we had a few weeks ago, like Carol had talked about, and then look at something else later. Part of me says, yeah, something simple can be done pretty quickly and easily. Is that what we want to do? If that's what we want to do, then I think we should do something that's simple and it isn't flowery. It's just simple that says we welcome everybody, like Carol had talked about. If that's not going to be something, then I think we need to push it forward.
Okay. Oh, Council President Freeman. I wasn't sure if it was ayes or if you had your hand up.
Oh, yes, sorry. Thank you, Madam. No, I was like, but I thought if someone else was. So I guess for me, I'm going to be selfish. I would like this done before I'm off council. But I'm not here to rush things, so I truly will go with consensus of council. But I think we have to have a starting point, and we can always improve. And I think that's something that this council, and I know future councils, can do. This is a work in progress, but we have to start somewhere. So we need a statement, whether it's large or small, but we need to start somewhere, and we can improve on it. And, council come January, February, y'all might change it, and there's nothing wrong with that. But we've heard from a lot of people. Have we heard from all 40,000 people that live in Kaiser? No. Will we? I don't know that we will. And I'm not trying to say I don't want to hear from people, because that's the thing that I think we're the best at, is listening to people in this community. But for selfish reasons, I'd like to adopt something in 2020. And it's an accomplishment for the craziness this year has given all of us. And I'm not trying to make light of this statement, because I think it's very, very important. But I also know that if councils in the future want to make changes, that is truly an opportunity that we have. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Reed?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I agree with Councilor Freeman in that we have to start somewhere, and this kind of encompasses a lot of our council goals anyway, in terms of community outreach and a lot of those kinds of it's something that should be reviewed annually. As far as, how is this progressing? Clarifying any confusion, adding something, taking away something. This is the kind of thing that should be reviewed on an annual basis, at least for the foreseeable future. And so I would also like to go ahead with it just so we can start somewhere.
Okay. Councilor Parsons?
I totally agree with Councilor Freeman.
Thank
I
you,
agree
Mark.
with Councilor Freeman. I would like something before I leave council.
What I'm getting then is Councilor Smith?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think that we've got enough people saying, let's work on it, and then let's put it on the agenda, and if we get it done, fantastic. If we don't, then it's going to continue to roll. That's kind of, let's just get it on there, let's get it done, see if we can get it done, see if we can all come to an agreement on what we have so far, and then if we can't, then it goes into the next year and we move on from there. But at least we give it a shot.
Okay, I wanted to hear from everybody whether or not we're going to put it on the December 7 agenda or push it forward. What I'm getting is a consensus to put it on the December 7 agenda. Your input on the draft, and I emphasize it is still a draft, capital D-R-A-F-T. Please get your comments to Mr. Johnson. Do not reply all. We all know better than that, but I want folks in the community to know that that's called a serial meeting and that's not okay. And then those will be compiled for our consideration on December 7th. Are we good? Okay. January 4, okay, let me go down the list here. December 7th, then we will meet at 7 p.m. in regular session. December 14th, we will do a work session reviewing our 2019-2020 council goals, and we will be inviting councilors-elect Kyle Duran and Ross Day to participate in that, as we can have a good conversation between incoming and outgoing councilors and the continuing team as well. And then on December 21st, we will meet at 7 p.m. in regular session. And then, as noted, January 4th, we will have the swearing-in ceremony for our new city councilors. And Tracy Davis will contact all the people who will be sworn in for your input on how we're going to do this 2020, 2021 style. There may be some limitations that will be different from the past, but that's okay. It's going to be 2021. Thank goodness. Also want to remind all city councilors who will be continuing and coming on board that you will have to have your person to appoint to the volunteer coordinating committee ready to announce that evening. If you have any questions about that, please see me or see Tracy Davis about that. And that is all I have for agenda input. Is there anything else, councilors, for the good of the order? All right, the time is 9:32 and we are adjourned.
We just have to have